Hi everyone, it's me, Mary. If you don't know me, I am someone that has Hashimoto's thyroditis, an autoimmune thyroid disease, and right now it's in remission. I have done many different things that I'm happy to share with other people, and I just continue to learn more and more every day. Today I'd like to talk about nutrition, our food, and how I believe it's the basis of healing. Without a good diet, it's going to be hard to heal. Supplements or taking a pill aren't going to make up for a diet that is poor in quality. So yeah, I feel a little off this morning, so please be patient with me. The one thing I'd like to say as well is that addiction is a real part of many of our lives, and for me is a part of my life that I didn't realize was there when I first started my healing journey. I thought that I was in control and that I was making reasonable decisions. And now looking back, I realized that food addiction was sabotaging me in my efforts to do what was good for my body, because my brain was telling me that I needed things that I didn't, or just making me miserable while I made important changes. So I would challenge anyone watching this just to think about that. I'm going to put a link to a susceptibility quiz by Bright Line Eating that is worth taking to see whether food addiction is an issue for you. I know we're so surrounded by food addiction, we don't really take it seriously, but it's like any other addiction. It's like alcoholism or drug addiction. It will make your life not go how you want it to in the other areas. And so before I start saying all these changes, I want you to think about whether you're going to react to these changes and think, oh, I can't do that. I could never do that. Oh, that's too hard. I couldn't live without that. Oh, I need this. I need that. And think about if you're having those kind of reactions to food, that maybe food means something to you more than it should, or more than it could, I should say. I'm not trying to put anyone down because I'm in the same boat. But anyways, so I, looking back now, wish that I would have known about Bright Line Eating before making many of the diet changes I made, because they would have been way more effective had I known about it. So yeah, that's my little spiel. I was just going to ask a couple questions. And those are basically ones that I ask myself, and that's what if you knew 100% that you could heal, And what if you knew 100% if you have weight issues or other issues, that they could be better? And with weight, what if you knew 100% you could lose all the weight that's excess without a doubt? And I would challenge you that if you get rid of food addiction from taking over your brain and hijacking what you really want, that's the case for most people. I'm sure there's exceptions, but for most people, that's the case. So now I'll do a quick spiel of everything I've tried, but just remember, I did all this except for the last 4 months as a food addict. So, yeah, couldn't necessarily make the best decisions. So first, I wanted to do as little as possible to heal because I didn't believe necessarily that it would work. And also, I really wanted to keep everything the same as much as I could. And just, I was hoping I could remove one thing or maybe 2 things and then I'd be all better. So the first things that I changed is I took out gluten. I went gluten-free, and this is even before I got my diagnosis of Hashimoto thyroditis. And so I went gluten-free, and then I also minimized cow dairy, which basically I just avoided it. So I didn't eat much of it, maybe in something. If it was a gluten-free baked good and it had dairy for some reason, maybe I'd eat that. But pretty much eliminate those. Didn't do much for me. In some ways, I think it might have messed me up more because sometimes gluten-free stuff is harder to digest, and I was still eating gluten-free stuff, baked goods or breads or that kind of thing, and those weren't doing anything for me, and I hadn't added anything to my diet to make it better. So I also attempted Whole30, which is a whole foods diet. Basically, if it's processed or packaged, you don't eat it. So just real food. And all of this was good, but of course my brain was still mostly focusing on getting lots of meat, fat, and sugar, not necessarily eating more veg or fruit. So I eat more of that stuff, but not necessarily great quantities consistently, even though I thought I was doing pretty good. So when I found out I was pregnant with our 3rd child, I started having really major pain in my stomach, and I was just throwing up basically chewed up, dry, undigested food. And I wanted to bring this up not to gross you out, but because some people have low stomach acid, that's something to look into. So my doctor recommended HCl with pepsin, or betaine and pepsin, I believe, which help basically replace stomach acid, and that helped so that I could digest food again, and made me more comfortable as I went through early pregnancy. I also got a food sensitivity test done, and it showed that I was sensitive to multiple foods, and one of those foods was eggs. So I eliminated eggs and the other foods, and with the elimination of eggs, I realized basically my digestion got way better. So food sensitivities are important to know as you change your diet, because what if you're eating really high quality, great food, but you're sensitive to it? It's still going to cause inflammation. So that's important. So lastly, I decided to do early last year, I did autoimmune paleo, which has an elimination. It's basically you eliminate anything that most people, like the most highly reactive foods, anything that triggers autoimmune or inflammation type stuff the most, you eliminate. And then, so that's what I did for over 2 months, probably about 2.5 months. And then you can slowly add one food at a time back in, and you can see if your body reacts to it. So it's another way of kind of doing a food sensitivity test, but doing it through how you feel, which is a valid way of figuring out what works for you and what doesn't as well. So that was something that worked pretty good. So what was great about all of these changes was I was eating more whole food, more fruits and vegetables, and I did figure out some foods that were causing extra inflammation in my body that I was sensitive to. So that was great. By changing those things, I was able to decrease inflammation. You know, I can't give you a number, but you know, my digestion, I went from slow digestion, where I could go number 2 maybe every 3 to 4 days, to being able to go most days. And then I had a lot of swelling in my hands, and I couldn't milk our goats anymore, and they're swollen, where I used to be able to fit them, and I now can, in a regular mouth jar. I don't know if you know what size that is, but I used to be able to fit them in those jars, and I got where I couldn't fit my hand in a jar. It was too swollen to do that anymore. I also would, you know, my shoulders would be really tight, and at night my arms would fall asleep and not really wake up very easily the next day. My allergies, you know, and that basically went away. Like, that went away with changing my food, and getting rid of the foods I was sensitive to. Also, my allergies, before I would just walk outside, and I was taking steroid inhaler and a nasal steroid, as well as seasonal allergy not medication, but seasonal allergy, over-the-counter medication. And even with all of that, I'd still be taking my albuterol inhaler off and on, just to be able to breathe. And if I touched grass with my legs, or got into something, my skin would break out and turn red just by touching it. I couldn't handle hay or anything like that, else I'd break out and be itchy. All that went away too. So just, I know those don't necessarily mean much to you, but for me it meant that I could now go outside, I could breathe, I could sleep better, my nose was clear, I felt better, I had less pain. The part that didn't really get better, though, is my antibodies are still there. And actually, after doing autoimmune paleo, I believe they were a little bit higher. And maybe because it felt so stressful, I don't know. But I also had a new baby, so who knows. But so that didn't work out like I had hoped. Some people had full remission by changing diet and eliminating food sensitivities, and I didn't get that result, and so it's pretty disappointing for all that hard work. But I'm not saying that so you don't do it, because I think it's totally worth it. It's just everyone's different, so you can't just give up just because one thing doesn't work for you necessarily. There's still more things to do. So anyways, it was just really hard to cope, like I said, because of food addiction. Now looking back, I was still fatigued and tired, even with the decrease in inflammation. I mean, a little bit, my mood lifted some, and I felt more hopeful, so that was good. But I still maybe would get 3 good hours in the morning, which was an improvement, before I felt fatigued and tired. But it still wasn't what I'd hoped for. And then I was still struggling with my weight. that 2.5 months I did autoimmune paleo strictly, I'd lost about 10 pounds. But right when I started adding back foods, you know, it made it easier to eat then, because on autoimmune paleo, I didn't like a lot of the food that much. So it's easier not to eat as much. But as I added back foods that I liked, even though I wasn't reacting to them, you know, I ate them more. And so, yeah, I gained the weight right back, and I was starting to gain even more weight, even though I thought I was not overeating. So that was disappointing. Yeah, I mean, when you're trying so hard and then you look in the mirror and you don't like who you're looking at still. You see someone that looks tired, and your hair's thin and still falling out, and you know, you're overweight, and you don't recognize really your own face as being what you should look like. Like that was really hard. I'm just saying that just so if you're in the same boat, and I get it. So all that to say, diet is huge, and those changes are no little changes. And I have heard of other people completely putting their autoimmune issues into remission with different kinds of protocols that are very similar to autoimmune paleo, or by even changing to a more whole food type diet. So it just matters who you are. There's lots of protocols out there, and wonderful naturopathic, holistic practitioners that could help you hopefully find your own way. From my perspective now, the best diet or the best protocol is the one that, you know, when you get rid of your addiction, if you have one, and when you're just thinking about what makes sense and what you could do, it's the one that you could do and stick to and believe in, and then take in the information that you learn as you do it. If something you do consistently, you know, then you can see kind of what works and what doesn't, what foods seem to cause an issue, what don't, what gives you energy, what doesn't. But if you don't stick to something consistently, it's a lot harder to see that. So I'd say pick something you can stick with and be consistent at. Also, the types of food that you're eating, you know, eating whole foods is one piece of it, and there's lots of research you can look at. Bright Line Eating is, I think, a really great resource, and I follow the Paleo Mom and just read paleo books and other things like that. Just I glean information wherever I can. Excuse me. But other pieces, sorry, moving my paper over to quiz myself here. So other things with food is that I look at now is the food locally grown? Is it fresh? Is it organically grown? Or is it sprayed with chemicals? And then is the animal being fed the type of food that animal was meant to be fed? As an example, cows are meant to eat green food and grass and pasture food. They're not meant to be eating meat, ground up meat, and weird types of protein and GMO grains. And so when they're fed that, it impacts the quality of food that you're getting. So I would look, you know, now I try to get pasture raised or grass fed, or all those things that helps the nutrients from that meat and the fats from that meat be something that's helpful rather than unhelpful. So this has not been the easiest video to make. I feel like I'm struggling, but I hope I've conveyed something to you that's helpful. I just want to support people. I don't think I have all the answers. I would encourage you to go ahead and do the susceptibility quiz, and I'll put that on link to this so that you can click on that and try that out. And just really think about if you knew for sure that you could have great results, and if your brain was just free to think about all the great things that are around us that could, that could help you heal and have a great life, that you already know, that you've already heard, that you've already seen successful in other people. If you had a mind that was willing to listen to that wisdom or those great things around you, that you could figure this stuff out yourself. And that's the important part. I call it a health journey because it's a process. Like, I'm not the same person that I was when I started this. I was talking to my dad today, and I was saying that I can't just tell people one piece of what I did to heal, because my mind has changed, my belief has changed, what I think is possible has changed, my resilience to realize, oh, I tried this and it didn't work. What else is there to try? Not what it used to be was, someone told me to do this, I tried it, it didn't work, nothing's working, and I'd be mad and angry and fed up, and I'd make excuses, but those, to protect myself, because I didn't want to keep trying so hard. But now I don't look at it that way. I see it as another opportunity to grow. If something doesn't work, then it's another opportunity to learn something else. And when you learn these things, the cool part is then you can share that with the people in your life and encourage them. And the harder it is, the more what you come up with is going to really help someone that's struggling with the same thing. So anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. I hope that something in here was helpful. If you want to comment, that's cool. If you have questions, I'd love to try to answer them. If you need prayer, ask for it. I hope to keep making videos. Hopefully they'll be better than this one. But yeah, check out my other videos if you are interested in that kind of information. And I will post again next week. Bye.